Okay, so with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, this is written in third person limited. The narrator is an outside narrator, but we know the thoughts and feelings of Harry. And so, because I'm so close to this story, because I've read it so many times and, watched the movies over and over again and all of that, it is hard to be somewhat more objective about it. So I kind of set myself a challenge as I was reading through it this time and analyzing, thinking, what if Rowling had decided to write this in first person instead? How would things be different? And to be honest with you, I've seen that as like a teacher question before, and I've thought, like, what's the point of doing that? But when I actually tried it, I saw some merit to that challenge. So I would encourage you, as we're reading through it this time, to do that too. So Harry set off into the heart of the forest with Malfoy and Fang. They walked for nearly half an hour, deeper and deeper into the forest, until the path became almost impossible to follow because the trees were so thick. Harry thought the blood seemed to be getting thicker. There were splashes on the roots of the tree, as though the poor creature had been thrashing around in pain close by. Harry could see a clearing ahead, through the tangled branches of an ancient oak. "Look," he murmured, holding out his arm to stop Malfoy. Something bright white was gleaming on the ground. They inched closer. It was the unicorn, all right, and it was dead. Harry had never seen anything so beautiful and sad. Its long, slender legs were stuck out at odd angles where it had fallen, and its mane was spread pearly white on the dark leaves. All right, so just this series of sentences right here gives me, I think, a good place to stop and ask, what if it had been written, "I had never seen anything so beautiful and sad"? That sentence in particular makes me think that if it were first person point of view, I would want even more thoughts and feelings from the person telling me the story. I would want them to pause and to go into more detail about what was going through their head. But because it's written in third person, we have a little more distance from Harry's thoughts, and that allows Rowling to just kind of move on to the next event in the story, which I actually really like. There are so many different plot points and events in a Harry Potter book, and you want to kind of keep that momentum going, and not being stuck in the person's head really helps in that way, I think. So anyway, the action does continue. Harry had taken one step toward it when a slithering sound made him freeze where he stood. A bush on the edge of the clearing quivered. Then, out of the shadows, a hooded figure came crawling across the ground like some stalking beast. Harry, Malfoy, and Fang stood transfixed. The cloaked figure reached the unicorn, lowered its head over the wound in the animal's side, and began to drink its blood. "Ah!" Malfoy let out a terrible scream and bolted. So did Fang. The hooded figure raised its head and looked right at Harry. Unicorn blood was dribbling down its front. It got to its feet and came swiftly toward Harry. He couldn't move for fear. Okay, so again, one of the things that I like about third person limited is I know that Harry's afraid, obviously. He couldn't move for fear. But the suspense is still there because I only know what he's experiencing. I'm not omniscient. I don't know what's going on in the head of Malfoy or the creature that's coming towards him. It's not so objective in that way that I almost feel like I can, like I'm watching a scary movie and I'm yelling at the TV like, "Hey, don't, go in there or run away." I get to participate in the action without it happening to me and being stuck in that person's head and too close to that person's feelings. And I actually think that it's really important in the Harry Potter series. And if you think about it, just about any kind of fantasy, fate, destiny, good versus evil type of main character, like I'm thinking about Luke Skywalker or Frodo, these characters, they tend to be a little more blank and open to us to project our thoughts onto them. more so than the characters who are around them. You know, like Hermione's personality is a whole lot more defined, I think, than I think about Harry's being sometimes, or Snape. And that allows me to kind of look at Harry as an avatar for me. I can be in this fight. I can participate, but I don't have to be too caught up in his thoughts and feelings. And again, that fight between good and evil, then that leads us into the motifs and the themes of the larger series. And we want to be able to have that character who we sympathize with from book to book, but that allows us to participate in that kind of almost fan way. All right.